All right, we are live, everybody. Save our sites. We are less than a month away. And this year was a big development for us in our maturation phase. During our first ever regional meetup, we had a sponsor, a pharmaceutical sponsor. And for the second annual Save Our Sites conference, we have Takeda as one of our sponsors. We're very honored, first of all, to have you guys sponsoring such a small conference. Small, but I think important conference that we've put on. And thank you so much, first of all, for doing that. Sean Cunningham and Ben Lanning from Takeda. We really appreciate the fact that you guys are trying to help save our sites as well. So thank you.
Yeah,
Our
thanks for
pleasure.
having us.
Do you want to go around and introduce yourselves to the SOS Nation, to Guru Nation, to Latinos in Clinical Research, and everyone who will be watching this after it's live?
Sure, I can jump in first. Ben Lanning, I support our study site engagement team globally. I've been with Takeda now for 2.5 years, but have been in the industry in one way or another for 30 years and started out at a site, so sites are near and dear to my heart.
Great. Thanks. Hi, everyone. My name is Sean Cunningham. I'm one of the regional directors on the study site engagement team. Myself and a colleague of mine, Shea Coker, handle the Americas, which for Takeda, for SSE at any rate, is the US, Canada, and Brazil. And I've been with Takeda, it'll be 2 years in May, so almost 2 years. But I've been in the industry for about 26, 27 years, something along those, almost exclusively in site-facing roles. So happy to be here.
Awesome. Yeah, thank you both for coming on and representing Takeda. Ben, you were saying, in your role as head of study site engagement, I've seen in your bio, you've had site relationship manager roles at different companies, senior director. How how important are sites for you guys as an organization? And there's been this trend of sponsors kind of taking back some of that control and bringing it in house because for a while it's been outsourced, almost entirely
Right.
to other stakeholders. So, was that a concerted effort on your guys' part, or do you think on the industry's part?
So as far as sites go, that's one of the things a colleague of mine at my previous company used to say. We were in a site relationship team that was global, very similar to the one we have here at Takeda, and that sites are the final common pathway for trial execution. End of sentence. If you don't have sites, you can't get to the patients. If the patients can't get to the sites, they can't get to what the sponsors are offering. They're the crux of everything that happened. When Takeda was starting this Future Fit initiative a couple, 2, 3 years ago to try and start to take control, like we said, of what they do with their clinical trials and really assume their own clinical trial brand rather than the extreme outsourcing. One of the first groups that came to mind was this site engagement team. Now, Takeda had from previous bits and pieces as they gobbled them up. A few people here, a few people there were in a similar role ish, but there was a concerted effort during FutureFit to brand this role as site engagement and to grow the role globally to make sure that we had people who could be out there hearing from the sites, learning from the sites, and helping us as we have our vision of what we want to do, how we can adjust it to accommodate for sites. Because again, something I like to say to everybody in house when I'm talking to them, whether it's somebody on a study team, somebody doing a process, at the end of the day, every decision you make and every action you take, there's a downstream effect that ends up at either a patient or somebody working at a site. It's inescapable. And so you need to start thinking about taking that sort of perspective into everything you do, and that's what our team really tries to do.
Yeah, every little thing. I mean, it could be as trivial as a retention gift that 2 weeks ago, no more now, maybe a month ago, one of my sub-eyes and I were kind of hanging out at the site, and we had a retention box shipped to us from a sponsor, not Takeda,
I
and
didn't
they
want
were
to
like,
know.
they were like vegetable seeds and like things like patients are supposed to plant in their yard, and the sub-eye is like a health freak, right? He's like, why are they giving them okra seeds? Don't they know those are highly inflammatory? I'm not giving these to our patients. And so it's just an example of like a little thing, like something seemingly trivial, or even what the sponsor may consider nice. Like, and I know there was a lot of man hours going into that
Yep.
decision. And then you have that as like not an intended outcome. If they would have known, nobody complained, but we just didn't
Yeah,
give it to them.
I think that's the thing to keep in mind, and we try to do as we're growing, because there's so much change in the world in Takeda right now. We're growing all of this is you got to assume positive intent. So I think, like you said, that sponsor probably had great intent, but they didn't check with anyone first,
Yeah.
and that's again that's what our team is supposed to be for Takeda, is that check, that sort of not
Mhm.
gatekeeper really, but just a checkpoint to say, all right, does this make sense when we're doing this? Because
Yeah.
it's not even just any sites, but there's such a huge difference between sites in the US, sites in other parts of the world. What might work in one place definitely doesn't work in another. Types of sites, what works at one type of site may not work at another. And we're always trying to tell everyone what we want are a local tailored approach when we're doing things, if possible. Some things you can't do it.
Mhm.
PVC system, everyone's going to use the same one. That kind of stuff, it's there's no way we can get around it. But some of these things, like what are we giving patients for retention? How do we tailor that locally?
And I mean, I'll let Judy speak because she's highly vocal about certain things. But one of the things I remember telling one of our other sponsors, because they were asking for feedback of what do sites want, it's very hard to please all sites because they're all different. They're all, even PIs. I mean, sites are big, but even PIs, if you boil it down to the individual members of the site, the PIs, even they have huge differences. Like they may not even agree on what's the proper standard of treatment for the same condition that they're all treating. How do you guys take that into account when sites seemingly want everything and everything different? And then you guys at the end of the day have to make one decision. Like you can't please them all, but you have to still do something. How does that go into account? How do you guys take that into account at Takeda?
Yeah, if I can jump in here, I mean, I think I mean, you're right. You can't please all the people all the time, but if you're not asking the sites at all, then you're starting in the wrong spot, right? And I think that's historically something that sponsors. I've been on the sponsor side for a couple of decades, and I think historically that was the biggest misstep that we made, was that we sit back in our offices and assume that we knew the best way to run a clinical trials on behalf of sites. And so what we do is make sure that we have, as Ben said, trying to get the word out to as many people on our end internally to be thinking about sites and to be thinking about patients when making decisions. And at least if we start there, then we'll be heading in the right direction. And then we just try to do what we think is the best for as many sites as possible. If we try to focus on perfection, we're going to be constantly disappointed. So, but just making sure that we are thinking about how the decisions impact the sites and how those decisions impact the patients. That's really all that we can do, I think.
Yeah, that's amazing. And thank you for doing that and having that team, that group of people that are thinking about the sites, because unfortunately, not every sponsor is doing that. And I think it's very important for sites to give you that feedback as well, right? To engage in these conversations and let you know what's working, what's not working, see what's doable. We also understand as sites, obviously, everything we ask for, we're not going to get, but there's a middle ground, right? There's a middle ground.
Yep.
What can we do to work together to achieve the goals that we need to do at our specific site, because it's going to vary compared to other sites. So yeah, I want to thank you for that. I don't think we've worked on too many Takeda studies at my site, but I am looking forward to hopefully in the future. And there are a few other sponsors who are also very open, as you guys are. And I think that makes a successful study at the sites, and that engagement that you get with the staff at the site. They're more willing to do what they need to do because you guys are providing the resources that they need to meet those goals.
It's not even the resources. Sometimes it's just like you said, listening.
Yeah.
Even if we can't change anything, it's having that ability to listen to you and say, we'll consider it. And that at the end of the day, it's a relationship. And in any relationship, the foundation is really listening. And so if we're not listening to you at the very least, how can we expect you to have a good relationship with us? So we have to do that.
Very true.
Yeah, and I think it's a couple of things we try to focus on are transparency when possible. We can't be transparent all the time. But transparency and humility. If we come into a collaboration with any partner, but specifically with sites, with the humility to say we don't have all the answers, right? We need to work with you to understand what's best for you and what's best for your patients, because nobody knows the site's patients better than the site themselves. And so having that humility and that vulnerability to come in and say, let's figure this out together is the best possible starting.
Yeah, that's perfect.
And it's a two-way street. Oh, go ahead, Judy.
No, go ahead. No, I was just going to ask. I know we've been everything that you mentioned that you do. Is there specific examples that you can give us of what Takeda is doing with sites or what you have implemented to? I'm not sure how much you can speak of, but for those sites that want to work with you, maybe haven't worked with you, there's something in place for that.
Yeah, so we have a couple of things that we're working on, and one is anytime that we go out to conferences or and we'll have this at SOS, we're really excited about this, is we have an opportunity, we have a QR code that sites can utilize to get their information to us, because that's kind of the first step, right? Breaking into a new sponsor is always a challenge for sites, and so we have a mechanism set up right now. It's kind of a bridge to get us to what's coming, but an opportunity to just provide us the information so that our team can handle it, work closely with our feasibility group to make sure that sites that have the best opportunity to be successful in our studies are at least being considered. And we recognize that there are a lot that we don't work with that we should, right? There are a lot of sites out there where we don't want them doing even one study. We want them doing all the studies because we know they act with integrity. They take care of their patients. They can get up and running quickly. All the hallmarks of good sites. There are a lot of those sites out there that we're not working with, and we should be. So we're trying to make that as easy as possible just to get to that first step. And be able to ingest the information and provide it to the folks that need it on our end. And then the other piece is just getting out there to make connections with new sites that we haven't worked with, and introduce ourselves and have an opportunity to get on the phone with them and hear a little bit about their site, tell them a little bit about our portfolio, what we may have coming up, to see if there could be an opportunity for us to collaborate in the near future. So that's something that our team has been pretty focused on for the last 6 or 12 months or so, is really getting our name out there and making those connections so that we can just begin at the beginning, so to speak.
I think Takeda as a whole is just doing what we talked about at the beginning, just bringing functions back in-house, doing feasibility ourselves. We're piloting right now startup ourselves. We're doing budgets and contracts, piloting some of that ourselves. And the idea is to kind of slowly scale that up, because we realize that's a huge hurdle that everyone has to go through. And if you have that direct link to the sponsor, things go a lot better.
Yeah, agreed.
I was just going to say it's a two-way street between sponsors wanting that direct access to sites. Sites also do want that direct access to the sponsors. I know personally, when I get a request as a site director from a sponsor, I take it a lot more seriously, even though we're supposed to say the textbook answers everything's equal. But when the sponsor reaches out, really make sure we resolve the issue, as opposed to when maybe a CRO does. It's like, okay, well, sometimes they're doing it for their own internal processes. It's not really necessary maybe for the sponsor. But when the sponsor reaches out, hey, this is like important, guys. We need to work on this. So I do think there is a benefit on both sides to have this direct line of communication. I was going to ask you guys, let's say there's a site out there, and maybe one of the silver linings of the recent layoffs, I know there's been a lot of CRA layoffs from the CROs and other roles. A small percentage of them, but a not negligible one, are considering site ownership because of the resources they have, the networking they have. So I think we're going to have a lot of newer sites sprinkled across the country as maybe a silver lining in regards to all these layoffs. How does a site approach someone like Takeda? Is it still the medical science liaison in your region, or is it now more streamlined to someone else, maybe you guys directly, or how do you prefer that would work?
So as Sean mentioned with the QR code, I think the first step was if you can get to one of these larger conferences, go there. We will be there. We will have a large presence. We will have a booth. You will be able to talk right to either Sean or myself usually to get your information in, and then we can plug you into our feasibility system. Outside of that, we're working on some other methods where eventually, and Sean, you probably know way more about this than I do, as you do with most things. Day to day, the WeConnect situation, eventually they're going to be building in some avenues where people can go in right through Takeda's public-facing website into the part that talks about research and be able to give us their information through the WeConnect platform. Right now, WeConnect is geared mostly towards patients and making sure patients are aware of what clinical trials are out there, and it's a resource for them. But within that, there are ways we can now work with individuals and sites to get their information. And then also it does piggyback off of what our MSLs are already doing. In the US, the MSLs are plentiful, and I think you can use them if you know them. Outside the US, it's a little more difficult. The resources are more constrained with the local operating companies, and you may not have access to them if you're someone new because they're really head down focused on their day-to-day science business. Sean, I don't know if there's more you want to add to that one.
Yeah, so that was what I sort of alluded to, and I stopped my thought before I got there. But the QR code that we have to get that information is a bridge to the operationalization of the CP section of WeConnect, which will be an opportunity for sites to connect directly with us. So that should be up and running soon. We'll have information on that at SOS as well. So that'll be an opportunity for sites to connect with us directly. And you know what, as I said, this has been a challenge for quite a long time for new sites to break into sponsors. So what I tell them, even before my time at Takeda, beg, borrow, and steal. Any contact that you have at a sponsor, if you worked on an old study and you still have somebody's email address, reach out to them. Certainly, if that happens at Takeda, most of the time they'll end up connecting with us and sending that information. But really, MSLs are a great resource for new sites to connect with the ClinOps teams at sponsors. So yeah, any of those.
Yeah, another avenue, and it might be more difficult, but within LinkedIn, I know that almost all of our SSELs have LinkedIn profiles. I don't know if there's a way to search that to find SSELs and Takeda, but you can utilize that method as well to find them and plug in. And I'll do the same thing I did at
a lot of messages.
You're gonna get out of your inbox.
I'm going to do the same thing I did at SCRS, which I'll probably regret. I'm on LinkedIn. Reach out to me if you want. I won't give out my email like I did at SCRS to the whole room of 250 people.
I was there. I got it.
I will offer up my LinkedIn to anyone that watches this, and you can reach out to me. Can't promise I'll answer it immediately, but I will get to it and try and route you to the right person.
Yeah, no, I'll do the same thing. I'm happy to have people connect with me on LinkedIn. And again, I may not respond right away, but we want to get connected with as many sites, certainly new sites, as possible.
Good afternoon or good morning. I don't know.
Welcome, Monica. Thank you.
Yeah, sorry, I joined a little late. I had it on my calendar at 12, and then I just like, there, I have to go. I have a question in regards to the linking, because oftentimes you go and look, let's say Takeda, but you don't know exactly what's the role or the title of the person that you should be looking for. So what will be in for Takeda purposes?
Yeah, Ben, are you muted?
We cannot hear you.
Can you hear me now? If it muted, it did it on its own.
Yes.
How about that? The wonders of technology. I didn't touch anything. In fact, I'm a paper and pencil guy, so I literally wouldn't have touched anything. I would say that the keywords would be study site engagement. If you put those in, it would pull up people from our team, it would pull up Sean or myself, and then you can find the right person to be able to plug in that way.
And obviously, people can can reach out to you guys on the conference. You guys are gonna have a booth, and then also Sean is gonna be part of one of the panels, and he's gonna be giving a lot of gems in this panel
Yeah, I'm looking
of
forward
information.
I didn't realize
As you can see, there's a theme here that Sean is the one you probably want to deal with more than me.
LinkedIn
Don't worry,
user
Ben, we get you there too.
Sean will be on the panel. What's the panel about? The one that Sean's
It's about finding studies for sites
Okay.
specifically.
LinkedIn user said, wouldn't this be identify yourself, LinkedIn user? Wouldn't this be the role of site engagement for Takeda in the event this was their case? Yeah, site engagement. So I just did it on LinkedIn, study site engagement Takeda, and I see Ben right there. Ben, you are number 2 on the list, not number 1.
Who's number 1?
Tal Shavit.
Oh yeah, he's on our team.
Okay.
Yep.
I'd hope so. Otherwise, he hacked his way into
Right.
the algorithm.
We have to work on that, Ben.
Yeah. So it works,
I'm
guys.
all right not being number 1. I'm all right with that.
For those playing at home, you can try this now. Study site engagement Takeda, and I know there's a few other sponsors that do this. Few and far between, though. So we got it. You guys are truly some of the pioneers. I know we've been as a group working for years with Takeda in different capacities, especially these 2 girls here, Monica and Judy, and we've got to know some of the team, and they've been working a long time to get you guys sponsored. So shout out to Monica and Judy and Chris also.
Yeah, and thanks. This was a relationship that we established through Lachelle. She's an amazing. Right. Yeah, we truly appreciate her and all the work that Takeda team is been doing. Quite honestly, is one of our favorite ones.
Yes.
And I will say he's number 1 right now.
Yes.
So
and I think that's the key is, people like Lachelle, that's really what this group, it's called Clinical Site Startup and Engagement, that was kind of formed coming out of Future Fit to pull these site-facing pieces back in. My boss, Marissa Rackley, has really looked for people that are looking at the human side of things and the site side of things and being aware in that holistic way of what's going on with trials. And, we're really trying to build that site-supported model all the way through and then start to grow it in other functions within Takeda. It's not just about this one group that does like contracts and feasibility. Eventually we want everyone to be thinking that way. It reminds me, and I brought this up at SCRS too, is there was a commercial, and I'll date myself, it was probably in the late 80s or early 90s, where there's a guy in a business and he's, telling everyone in the room, we've lost touch with our customers. They don't trust us anymore, or they never get to see us. Everything's done by teleconference. And then he walks around the room handing out airline tickets to everybody in the room. And that's really what I think kind of the light bulb went off, that sponsors are missing that piece. And that's why these groups you're seeing more and more often.
Right. Yeah. And I wanted to ask, because I know I'm going to ask Ashley's question, because I attended that our SCRS conference last year, and you had a lot of representatives there from Takeda, and I was really happy to see that. I felt like, wow, this is a company I really want to work with, because look at how many people are here at the session, throughout the conference. I spoke to several of them, and I kept running into them. And so going to Ashley's question, how many from your team will be at SOS this year, or what group, aside from the booth, right? You're going to be walking around, I assume.
Yeah. So no, that's a great question. So right now we have 3 people that are scheduled to be there. Generally at a booth, probably 1 or 2 people at a time, and then we'll have at least 1 person that will be just sort of roaming around and connecting with people. That's it right now. We have a couple of people that are actually relatively close to Oklahoma City that we may pull in. But right now we have 3 confirmed to be there. Myself.
Yeah, I have to say we would love to send more, but we are extremely busy right now with a couple of our key trials, and we can't unfortunately pull people out of the field in order to go. I would love to. If I had my way, we would just flood the zone at every single conference in Congress with people. But unfortunately, they have day jobs.
It makes sense. Thank you.
Yeah.
I mean, we're very excited that you guys are going full stop because it's gonna be and I'm sure your booth is gonna be a busy booth.
Yes, it will.
Yeah, I hope so. That'll be great. But as been said at the top, we consider site support, site advocacy to be absolutely critical to the advancement of our portfolio. Right, sites are the fuel that makes the engine run, and we recognize that. So we're very excited to be a part of this conference. We did have we sent someone to the first conference last year, and we're excited to have a larger presence this year. And who knows what will happen in 2026?
And always now that we know we're going to be kind of routinely going to this, I think we can each year up our game a little bit. That's we tripled it for this year, so that's good.
Looking forward to it.
If we end, I gotta end on a question on diversity. So there's been a lot of focus in the last couple of years around diversity. Been a lot of initiatives to get more minority participants in studies. Is that going to continue for you guys? Is that still
100%.
something?
Absolutely.
100%. It's funny you mentioned that. We've had multiple calls in the last few weeks where people internal to Takeda ask these very questions. And the response we've gotten at every single one of these opportunities, in fact, we had a town hall for all of R&D 2 days ago, and Andy Plump, who's our head of R&D, stood up there and said, we are not changing a thing as far as our commitment to DE&I goes. It's the right thing to do for clinical trials. It has so many benefits to everybody, and we will not waver from that.
Yeah, and it's we're not focused on equitable access to our clinical trials because the FDA tells us to, right?
Right.
We're focused on that because the science tells us to, because it's the right thing to do, and at the end of the day, it's a good business decision. I mean, it's why would we not study the effects of our treatments in the population that it's going to be treated is going to be treated by. So it walking away from it makes no sense, and it's not something that even crossed our mind. Takeda was focused on equitable access long before the FDA even
before. Yeah, that's good to hear.
Right.
It's always funny how altruism, was like meant to be a government mandate. It should be corporate responsibility, individual responsibility.
Yeah, 100%.
I don't know how much more time before we close. I do want to just say thank you to everyone that might be listening that works at the sites. Again, you guys are the engine that drive all of this. Patients can't get to us, and we can't get to patients without you. So thank you. I know we don't always make it easy for you, particularly on the sponsor side. Again, speaking from my own site level experience. So more than anything, thank you.
Thank you guys. It goes both ways. We're not inventing the IPs. I mean, we wouldn't exist without sponsors, and vice versa. You guys, I mean, we're not ready to do in silico trials yet with digital twins. So we got to work with sites for the next few decades at least.
That's it, man. We're all in this together, right? And it's never us against it's all of us against the disease.
Exactly, for a common purpose.
Yes, exactly. So.
Exactly. Yeah.
Last comments, Judy, Monica, Chris. I know you really can't, but if you wanted to.
Yeah, no, I will say thank you so much for all the hard work. Thank you so much for Takeda, because like I mentioned before, I didn't say it's our favorite just because we've been working with Takeda for the last couple of years.
Pre-COVID,
behind the scenes.
BC,
exactly.
before
So and with Lachelle, we know the team, and we really appreciate the team. Takeda has done an excellent HR work. Really, the professionals that work at Takeda are amazing. Thank you.
Good. Thank you. And we're looking forward to seeing everyone in Oklahoma City.
See you there. And everybody go connect with Ben and Sean. Chris is trying to say something.
On me.
Take it out. Yes.
March 13th through 15th next month in Oklahoma City at the Omni Hotel.
The Omni Hotel, please. for this conference, please no Airbnb, please.
Oh, that's right. We have a
We've
couple
committed
of
to
more
rooms.
days.
Yeah, we have to
A
sell
couple
some
of
rooms.
more days. Not a couple, like
A few weeks.
more than a few weeks.
Yeah.
Weeks,
So just a
probably,
reminder for
until
those
the 27.
Yes. You
If
book
you
your
want to
room.
get-
Discount code. If not, it will increase after February 27th.
Yeah, exactly.
Nice.
All right, and
Chris,
then
take us out.
share, like us, and we'll see you, everybody. See you soon. This great team of Takeda.
Go follow Ben and
Thank you.
Sean. Their booth is always busy, but they always make time for sites, says Ted. And we'll take it out with the Omni Hotel, everybody. Bye-bye.
Bye, everyone.
Bye bye. Thanks.
Thank you for the opportunity.